The alarm bells stopped ringing 3 hours ago, but Jake Morrison could still hear them in his head. He stood in the main command bunker looking at the screen that showed the surface of New Haven Colony. Everything was burning. The buildings they had worked so hard to build were now just piles of broken metal and stone. Jake had been the captain of a Earth Navy ship once. That was before he came to this faraway planet to help build a new home for humans. Now he was the leader of 12,000 people who were trapped underground with nowhere to run. "Captain Morrison, sir." The voice belonged to Ryan Bell, a young officer who had been in charge of the colony's small security force. His uniform was dirty and torn. Blood covered his left arm from a fight with alien soldiers 2 days ago. "We counted the ammunition again. We have enough bullets for maybe 6 more hours of fighting." Jake looked at the younger man and tried not to show his fear. Ryan was only 25 years old. Most of the security team were young people who had never fought in a real war before. They had signed up to protect the colony from wild animals and small problems. None of them expected to fight against an alien army. "What about the food and water?" Jake asked. "We have enough food for 2 more weeks if we eat very little. Water will last longer, but not much longer." Ryan's voice was tired. He had not slept for 3 days. None of them had slept much since the aliens came. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Armada. They came from somewhere deep in space, moving from planet to planet like a disease. They took people as slaves and stole everything valuable they could find. 3 months ago, over 200 of their big warships came to New Haven. The colonists never had a chance to fight back. Jake walked to another part of the bunker where Dr. Kate Sullivan was taking care of the wounded. She was a good doctor who had come to New Haven because she wanted to help build something new and peaceful. Now she spent her days trying to save people who were hurt in the fighting. "How are they doing, Kate?" Jake asked quietly. Kate looked up from a man whose leg was badly hurt. Her hands were covered in blood and her eyes looked very tired. "I'm doing my best, but I'm running out of medicine. The painkillers are almost gone. If someone gets hurt badly, I don't know if I can help them." Jake put his hand on her shoulder. "You're doing everything you can. That's all any of us can." Torsier and Kate nodded but didn't look happy. "Jake, I need to tell you something. I heard the people talking. They're scared. Some of them think we should give up and surrender to the aliens." This was what Jake was afraid of hearing. He understood why people felt this way. They had been hiding underground for 3 months, eating very little food, and always afraid. The aliens kept attacking their defenses, and each attack was stronger than the last one. "What do you think will happen if we surrender?" Jake asked. "I think they'll make us slaves, just like they did to all the other people they caught." Kate's voice was very quiet. "But some people think that's better than dying down here." Jake walked away from the medical area and went to find Lisa Parker. She had been in charge of running the colony before the aliens came. She was smart and good at organizing people, but the last 3 months had been very hard for her too. He found Lisa in the communications room, sitting in front of broken equipment. She was trying to fix a radio that had been damaged in the first attack. Her hair was messy and she had dark circles under her eyes from not sleeping. "Any luck with the radio?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "Everything is broken. The main communication tower on the surface was destroyed on the first day. The backup systems were hit 2 weeks later. Even if I could fix this radio, I don't think our signal would be strong enough to reach anyone." Jake sat down next to her. They had been friends for many years, even before they came to New Haven. Lisa had always been the one with hope and good ideas. Seeing her look so sad made Jake feel worse. "Do you think Earth knows what happened to us?" Lisa asked. Jake didn't answer right away. The truth was that he didn't know. New Haven was very far from Earth. It took messages 3 weeks to travel from their planet to the nearest Earth station. Even if someone on Earth got their distress call, it would take a long time for help to come. "I hope they know," Jake said finally. "But even if they do, I don't know if they can send help in time." A loud noise came from above them. The bunker shook and dust fell from the ceiling. The aliens were attacking again. This happened every few hours now. They would send their soldiers to test the colony's defenses and see how much fight was left in the humans. Ryan Bell's voice came over the communication system. All security teams to positions. They're trying to break through the north entrance again. Jake and Lisa ran to the command center. On the screens, they could see alien soldiers moving toward one of the hidden entrances to the bunker system. The aliens were tall and thin, with gray skin and big black eyes. They carried weapons that shot bright blue energy beams. "How many of them?" Jake asked. "About 50, Ryan said. "Same as yesterday. They're testing us." Jake watched as the colony's defenders moved to stop the aliens. There were only 30 humans left who could fight. Most of them were not real soldiers. They were engineers, farmers, and teachers who had learned to use weapons because they had to. The fight lasted 20 minutes. The humans managed to drive the aliens away, but 3 more defenders were hurt. One of them was hurt very badly. Dr. Sullivan would have to work very hard to save him. After the fight, Jake called a meeting with all the important people in the colony. They met in a small room deep in the bunker. Besides Jake, there was Lisa, Ryan, Kate, and 5 other people who helped lead different groups in the colony. "We need to talk about our situation," Jake said. "We all know we can't keep fighting like this much longer. The people are losing hope," said Mary Johnson, who was in charge of the families with children. "The kids ask me every day when they can go back to their real homes. I don't know what to tell them." "Maybe we should try to negotiate with the aliens," suggested Tom Wilson, who used to be in charge of the colony's farming. "Maybe they'll let some of us live if we surrender." Ryan shook his head. "Sir, I don't think that's a good idea. I've seen what these aliens do to the people they capture. They don't treat prisoners well." "But what choice do we have?" Tom asked. "We can't fight them forever." Jake looked around the room at the tired faces of his friends and fellow colonists. These were good people who had come to New Haven to build a better life. They didn't deserve to die on this faraway planet, forgotten by the rest of humanity. "I know things look very bad," Jake said, "but I still believe that Earth will send help. We just have to hold on a little longer." "How much longer?" Lisa asked. "We've been waiting for 3 months. Maybe Earth doesn't even know we're in trouble." Jake didn't have a good answer for that question. Deep in his heart, he was starting to wonder the same thing. Maybe Earth really didn't know about their situation. Maybe no help was coming. Maybe they really were going to die here, alone and forgotten. But he couldn't let the others see his doubt. As their leader, he had to give them hope, even if he wasn't sure he believed it himself. "We'll keep fighting," Jake said. "As long as we have bullets and people who can shoot them, we'll keep fighting. That's what humans do. We don't give up." The meeting ended, and everyone went back to their jobs. Jake stayed in the small room, by himself for a few minutes. He thought about his home on Earth, about the blue sky and green trees he might never see again. He thought about all the people depending on him to keep them safe. Tomorrow, the aliens would probably attack again. And the day after that. Each day the colonists got weaker while the aliens stayed strong. Jake knew that time was running out. Soon, they would have to make the hardest choice of their lives: fight to the death, or surrender and hope for mercy from an enemy that had shown no mercy to anyone else. Jake stood up and walked back to the command center. He had work to do. As long as he was alive, he would keep fighting for his people. Even if no help was coming from Earth, even if they were truly alone, he would not give up. That was what it meant to be human. High above New Haven in the cold darkness of space, a small machine floated alone among the wreckage of destroyed satellites. The machine was no bigger than a refrigerator, and it had been badly damaged in the first alien attack 3 months ago. Most people would think it was just another piece of space junk, but the little machine was still working. Deep inside its broken shell, a tiny computer was doing the most important job of its life. Every few minutes, it sent out a radio signal into the emptiness of space. The signal was weak and getting weaker every day as the machine's power ran low, but it kept trying. The machine was an emergency beacon, designed to call for help when something terrible happened. It had been floating in space for 12 weeks now, sending the same message over and over again. The message said that New Haven colony was under attack and needed help right away. The signal traveled through space at the speed of light, moving past dead planets and empty solar systems. Most of the time, nobody heard it. Space is very big, and the signal was very small, but the little machine never gave up. It kept sending its cry for help into the darkness. 3 weeks after the attack began, the signal reached a relay station at the edge of human space. The station was just a collection of big antennas and computers, with no people living there. The computers heard the weak signal and made it stronger, then sent it on toward Earth. The message traveled for another week through the network of relay stations that connected all the human colonies. Each station made the signal a little bit stronger and sent it further along the chain. But the original message was so damaged that most of the computers couldn't understand what it was trying to say. Finally, the signal reached Terra Nova Station, a big military base that protected the inner part of human space. The station had the most powerful computers and the best communication equipment that humans had ever built. When the signal arrived, the computers worked hard to clean up the damaged message and figure out what it was trying to say. Lieutenant, Commander Sarah Davis was working the night shift in the communications center when the computer alarm went off. She had been reading reports about supply shipments and was happy to have something more interesting to do. Sarah was 28 years old and had been working at Terra Nova for 3 years. She was good at her job and took it very seriously. "What do we have?" Sarah asked the computer. The screen showed a mess of broken words and numbers. Most of the message was impossible to read, but Sarah could make out a few important parts. She saw the words New Haven and under attack and need help now. There were also some numbers that looked like the location of a planet. Sarah felt her heart start beating faster. New Haven was a colony on the far edge of human space. If they were really under attack, it was a very serious problem. She quickly called her supervisor, Major Peter Clark. "Sir, I think we have an emergency message from New Haven Colony," Sarah said when Peter arrived. "The message is very damaged, but it looks like they're asking for help." Peter looked at the screen and frowned. He was an older man who had been in the military for 20 years. He had seen many real emergencies and many false alarms. "When did this message arrive?" "Just now, sir. But according to the computer, the original signal is 12 weeks old. It's been traveling through space all this time." Peter felt cold. If the message was 12 weeks old and it was asking for help, then the people on New Haven might already be dead. But he had to follow the rules. Any distress call from a human colony had to be reported to the highest levels of command right away. "Send this up the chain immediately," Peter told Sarah. "Mark it as urgent and see if you can clean up any more of the message." Sarah worked on the message for the next 2 hours. She used every computer program she knew to try to make the signal clearer. Slowly, more words became readable. She could see that the colony was under attack by aliens. The message mentioned hundreds of enemy ships and thousands of people in danger. By morning, the message had reached Admiral Patricia Hayes at Earth Defense Command. Patricia was 55 years old and one of the most respected military leaders in human space. She had fought in 3 different wars and had never lost a battle. When she read the report about New Haven, she knew she had to act fast. Patricia called an emergency meeting with all the top military commanders. They met in a secure room deep inside the Earth Defense Building. The room had no windows, and the walls were covered with screens showing maps of human space and the locations of all military ships. "Gentlemen and ladies," Patricia said as the meeting started, "we have a situation. New Haven Colony sent a distress call 12 weeks ago. The message is badly damaged, but it's clear that they were under attack by a large alien force." General Mike Thompson, the head of the Space Marines, leaned forward in his chair. "Do we know who attacked them?" "The message mentions ships that match the description of the Zephyrian Armada," Patricia said. "If that's true, then the colonists are in very serious trouble." Everyone in the room knew about the Zephyrians. They were a group of alien races that traveled through space, attacking planets and taking prisoners as slaves. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations, but they had never attacked human colonies before. "How many people are on New Haven?" asked Admiral John Carter, who was in charge of the Third Fleet. 12,000 colonists, plus a small security force, Patricia answered. If they were still alive when this message was sent, they might still be alive now. Or they might all be dead, said General Thompson. 12 weeks is a long time. Patricia nodded. That's true. But we have to assume they're still alive and fighting. We can't abandon them. Admiral Carter looked at the star map on the wall. New Haven is very far away. It would take our fastest ships 2 weeks to get there, even at maximum speed. Then we need to send our fastest ships, Patricia said. And not just a few ships. If the Zephyrians really have hundreds of warships there, we'll need a big fleet to have any chance of success. The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew what the Admiral was suggesting. She wanted to send a large part of the human military to the other side of space to fight an enemy they had never fought before. It was a huge risk. How big a fleet are you thinking about? General Thompson asked. Patricia stood up and walked to the star map. She pointed to the location of New Haven, far from Earth and all the other human colonies. I want to take every ship we can spare. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, support ships, everything. This will be the largest fleet we've ever assembled. That's a lot of ships to risk on a rescue mission, Admiral Carter said carefully. Patricia turned to face the other officers. These aren't just numbers on a report. These are 12,000 human beings who trusted us to protect them. They went to New Haven because we told them it was safe. Now they're fighting for their lives, and they probably think we've forgotten about them. She walked back to her chair and sat down. I've made my decision. We're going to mount the largest rescue operation in human history. We'll take 150 ships and go get our people back. The other commanders looked at each other. They all knew that Patricia was right, but they also knew how dangerous this mission would be. The Zephyrians had never been defeated by any alien race. Human ships had never fought them in a real battle before. Who will command this fleet? General Thompson asked. I will, Patricia said. This is too important to trust to anyone else. Over the next few hours, the plans for the rescue mission began to take shape. Patricia would command the fleet from her flagship, the USS Leviathan. The fleet would include some of the best captains in the human military. Commander Ben Taylor would bring his ship, the USS Defiant, known for its powerful weapons. Captain Amy Rodriguez would command the USS Intrepid, one of the fastest ships in space. The fleet would also include ships that were specially designed for rescue missions. These ships had medical facilities and room for thousands of passengers. If the colonists were still alive, there would be a way to bring them home. As the commanders worked on their plans, orders went out to military bases all across human space. Ships that were on patrol were called back. Crews that were on leave were told to report for duty immediately. Weapons and supplies were loaded onto transport ships. The news about New Haven was kept secret from the general public. The military leaders didn't want to cause panic, and they didn't want the aliens to know that humans were coming. But word began to spread among the military personnel. Everyone knew that something big was happening. In the Terra Nova Communication Center, Sarah Davis watched the preparations with excitement and worry. She was the one who had first discovered the message from New Haven. Now she watched as the largest military fleet in human history prepared to rescue the colonists. Do you think they're still alive? Sarah asked Major Clark. Peter looked at the star map showing the location of New Haven. I don't know, he said honestly. 12 weeks is a long time to hold out against an alien army, but humans are tough. If anyone can survive that long, it's us. 2 days after the emergency meeting, Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Leviathan as the great ship prepared to leave Earth orbit. Around her, 149 other ships waited for the order to jump to hyperspace. It was the most powerful fleet that humanity had ever assembled. The 2 weeks of travel felt like 2 years to Admiral Patricia Hayes. Every day she wondered if they were already too late. Every night, she looked at the pictures of the New Haven colonists and hoped they were still alive. The USS Leviathan and the 149 other ships in her fleet traveled through hyperspace as fast as they could. But space is very big, and even the fastest ships take time to cross it. On the morning of the 14th day, Patricia stood on the bridge of her flagship. Around her, the crew prepared for what might be the biggest battle in human history. The ship's weapon systems were ready, the shields were at full power, medical teams were standing by to help wounded soldiers. "Admiral, we're approaching the edge of the Kepler system," reported Commander Linda Foster, the ship's navigation officer. "We should drop out of hyperspace in 5 minutes." Patricia nodded. "Signal all ships, battle stations. We don't know what we're going to find when we get there." Across the fleet, alarms sounded as 150 human warships prepared for battle. On the USS Defiant, Commander Ben Taylor checked his weapons one more time. On the USS Intrepid, Captain Amy Rodriguez made sure her ship's engines were running perfectly. Every captain and crew member knew that the next few hours would decide if 12,000 colonists lived or died. "Dropping out of hyperspace now," Commander Foster announced. The stars around the fleet suddenly stopped moving as the ships returned to normal space. In front of them was the Kepler system, with its yellow sun and several planets. The third planet was New Haven, where the colonists were supposed to be hiding. But between the human fleet and New Haven was something that made even experienced military officers feel afraid. Hundreds of alien warships filled the space around the planet. The ships were long and dark with strange designs that hurt to look at. Energy weapons glowed along their sides like angry red eyes. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Mark Johnson, the communication officer, "there are so many of them." Patricia counted the alien ships on her screen. There were at least 250 of them, maybe more. Each one was as big as a human battleship, and they all looked ready for war. She had brought the largest fleet in human history. But the aliens had even more ships. "Admiral," said Commander Foster, "we're getting scanned by the alien ships. They know we're here." On the bridge of the lead Zephyrian ship, Warlord Zentar looked at the human fleet with curiosity rather than fear. He was tall and thin like all his people, with gray skin and large black eyes. He had conquered 17 different alien races in his long life, and none of them had ever sent such a large fleet to fight him. "How many ships do the humans have?" he asked his second-in-command. 50 warships, my lord. They are smaller than our ships, but they appear to be well armed." Zentar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Only 150 ships? The humans must be very brave or very stupid. We have destroyed entire civilizations with fleets twice this size." The warlord had been fighting the human colonists for 3 months, and he was not impressed with them. They had hidden underground like frightened animals instead of fighting, in space like real warriors. Their weapons were primitive and their ships were weak. He expected this battle to be over very quickly. "Shall we attack immediately, my lord?" asked his officer. "Not yet," Zentar said. "Let them come closer. I want to see what these humans think they can do against the mighty Zephyrian armada." Back on the USS Leviathan, Patricia was making plans for the battle. She knew her fleet was outnumbered, but she also knew something the aliens didn't. Human ships were not built just to be big and scary. They were built to be smart and fast. "Commander Taylor," she said into her communication system, "take your battle group and hit their left side. Captain Rodriguez, I want you to take your ships and circle around behind them. We're going to show these aliens how humans fight." On Yawai, the planet below, the colonists felt the ground shake as the alien and human fleets moved into position above them. In the main bunker, Jake Morrison looked at his sensor readings and couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Lisa, you need to look at this," he called to Lisa Parker, who was helping Dr. Sullivan with the wounded. Lisa ran over to the sensor station. On the screen, she could see the energy signatures of hundreds of ships in space above them. But some of the signatures looked different from the alien ships they had been watching for 3 months. "Those are human ships," Lisa whispered. "Jake, those are human ships up there." Jake felt his heart start beating very fast. He had hoped that Earth would send help, but he never imagined they would send so many ships. He quickly called for Ryan, Bell, and the other leaders to come to the command center. "Everyone listen to me," Jake announced over the colony's communication system. "We're picking up human fleet signatures in orbit. Earth has sent ships to rescue us. Our people haven't forgotten about us." All through the underground bunkers, colonists started crying with joy. Parents held their children and told them they were going home. Old people who thought they would die on this far planet began to hope again. Dr. Sullivan had to sit down because she felt so relieved she couldn't stand up. But the celebration didn't last long. Through the ground sensors, they could see that a huge battle was about to start. The human fleet was brave to come so far to save them, but the alien fleet was much bigger. Above the planet, Admiral Patricia gave the order to attack. All ships begin the assault. Show them what happens when you mess with humans. The space around New Haven exploded with light and energy as the two fleets began to fight. Human ships moved fast and struck hard, using tactics the aliens had never seen before. The USS Defiant and its battle group hit the alien left side like a hammer, destroying 3 enemy ships in the first few minutes. Captain Rodriguez led her ships in a wide circle around the alien fleet. The Zephyrians expected enemies to attack from the front, but the humans attacked from many directions at once. Rodriguez's ships came up behind the alien formation and started shooting at their big command ships. The aliens fought back with their powerful energy weapons, but they quickly realized that this battle was not going to be as easy as they thought. Human ships were much faster than the alien vessels. When the Zephyrians tried to shoot them, the human ships moved out of the way and attacked from somewhere else. Warlord Zentar watched the battle from his command ship and felt something he had not felt in many years: worry. His ships were bigger and had more powerful weapons, but the humans were fighting like nothing he had ever seen before. They worked together like parts of one big machine, each ship knowing exactly what the others were going to do. "My lord," said his officer, "we're losing ships faster than we expected. The humans are using some kind of new fighting method." Zentar looked at his battle display. In just 30 minutes of fighting, he had lost 15 ships while the humans had only lost 4. This was not supposed to happen. His fleet was supposed to be unstoppable. "Order all ships to focus fire on their flagship," he commanded. "If we destroy their leader, the rest will run away." The alien ships turned their weapons toward the USS Leviathan. Energy beams and plasma missiles flew toward Patricia's ship like a deadly storm. But the Leviathan was one of the toughest ships humans had ever built. Its shields held strong against the alien attack, and it kept fighting back. On the bridge, Patricia watched as her fleet continued to outfight the aliens. Human ships darted between the larger enemy vessels, striking weak points and then moving away before the aliens could respond. It was like watching a pack of wolves hunt a group of slow, heavy animals. "Admiral," reported her weapons officer, "we're hitting them hard. Their formation is starting to break apart." Patricia smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. "Keep the pressure on them. Don't give them time to reorganize." Down on New Haven, the colonists watched the battle through their sensors. They could see human ships destroying alien vessels one after another. The fleet that had trapped them for 3 months was being torn apart by Earth's warships. Ryan Bell organized his remaining security forces to prepare for a breakout. If the human fleet won the battle in space, they would need to help with the rescue operation on the ground. The colonists had been hiding for 3 months, but now they were ready to fight alongside their rescuers. The battle continued for 2 hours. Human ships used their speed and teamwork to defeat aliens who only knew how to fight by being bigger and stronger. Commander Taylor's battle group punched through the alien front lines and started attacking their supply ships. Captain Rodriguez's fast attack ships destroyed the alien communication vessels, making it hard for them to coordinate their defense. Warlord Zentar realized that his mighty armada was losing the battle. Half of his ships were destroyed or badly damaged. The humans had lost only 20 ships, and they were still fighting as hard as when the battle started. "My lord," his officer said with fear in his voice, "perhaps we should retreat. We can come back with more ships." Zentar was angry, but he was not stupid. He had never lost a battle before, but he had never fought humans before either. These small, fast ships with their clever tactics were unlike any enemy he had ever faced. "Signal the fleet," he said with hatred in his voice. "We withdraw. But this is not over. The Zephyrian armada will return." The remaining alien ships began to pull back from the battle. The alien ships were running away, but Admiral Patricia Hayes knew the battle was not over yet. From her position on the bridge of the USS Leviathan, She could see that some of the Zephyrian vessels were still fighting. The aliens might be retreating, but they were not giving up completely. "Admiral," reported her sensor officer, "the alien ships are regrouping near the outer edge of the system. It looks like they're preparing for another attack." Patricia frowned as she studied the tactical display. Warlord Zentar was smarter than she had hoped. Instead of running away completely, he was pulling his ships back to a safe distance where he could plan a new attack. The Warlord still had about 150 ships left, which was the same number as the human fleet. "He's not done fighting," Patricia said to her officers. "Signal all ships to maintain battle formation. This isn't over yet." On his command ship at the edge of the system, Warlord Zentar was angry, but not defeated. He had been fighting wars for more than 50 years, and he had learned that sometimes you had to change your tactics to win. The humans were faster and smarter than he expected, but his ships still had more powerful weapons. "Gather the fleet commanders," he ordered his second-in-command. "We need a new plan to deal with these humans." Within an hour, the surviving Zephyrian captains had assembled on the Warlord's ship. They were all experienced fighters who had helped conquer many worlds, but none of them had ever faced an enemy like the humans before. "The humans fight differently than other races," Zentar told his captains. "They use speed and teamwork instead of raw power. We cannot fight them the same way we fought the others." One of the captains, a scarred veteran named Kexalon, spoke up. "My lord, perhaps we should call for reinforcements. There are more Zephyrian fleets in nearby systems." Zentar shook his head. "That would take too long. By the time reinforcements arrive, the humans will have rescued their people and left. We must defeat them now, with the ships we have." The Warlord pointed to a tactical display showing the human fleet formation. "Look at how they position their ships. The big warships stay in the center while the smaller, faster ships attack from the sides. We need to break up their formation and force them to fight us ship against ship." Another captain named Vordan had an idea. "What if we pretend to retreat further, then attack them when they follow us? We could lure them away from the planet and surround them." Zentar considered this plan. It was risky, but it might work. The humans seemed very determined to protect their colonists, so they would probably chase the Zephyrian fleet if they thought the aliens were running away. "Yes," the Warlord said. "We will make them think we are cowards running from battle. When they come after us, we will spring our trap." Back on the USS Leviathan, Patricia was planning her own strategy. She knew that the aliens were not really retreating. They were planning something, and she needed to be ready for whatever they tried next. "Commander Taylor," she said over the communication system, "what's the status of your battle group?" Ben Taylor's voice came back from the USS Defiant. "We lost 2 ships in the first attack, but the rest of us are ready to fight. My crews are loading fresh ammunition and repairing battle damage." "Good. Captain Rodriguez, how are your fast attack ships doing?" Amy Rodriguez replied from the USS Intrepid. "We're in excellent shape, Admiral. My ships are fast and ready for whatever comes next." Patricia felt confident about her fleet's condition. They had fought well in the first battle and proved that human ships could defeat the aliens. But she also knew that Warlord Zentar was not the kind of enemy who would give up easily. Down on New Haven, the colonists were preparing for evacuation, but they could still feel the tension in the air. The ground sensors showed that both fleets were still in the system, which meant the danger was not over yet. Jake Morrison called another meeting with the colony leaders in the main bunker. Everyone looked tired but hopeful. For the first time, in 3 months, they believed they might actually survive. "The human fleet is still up there," Jake said, "but so are the aliens. We need to be ready in case the fighting starts again." Ryan Bell nodded. "My security teams are prepared to help with the evacuation when it's safe. We've marked all the entrances to the bunker system so the rescue teams can find us easily." Dr. Sullivan had good news to report. "Most of our wounded are stable now. If we can get them to the medical ships in the human fleet, they should be fine." Lisa Parker looked worried. What if the aliens attack again? What if they win this time? Jake put his hand on her shoulder. "The human fleet beat them once, they can do it again. We just have to trust our people to protect us." In space above the planet, the two fleets began to move. The Zephyrian ships started pulling back further from New Haven, making it look like they were retreating completely. Warlord Zentar's plan was working. The human ships began to follow them just as he had hoped. Patricia watched the alien movement on her tactical display. Something felt wrong about the way the aliens were retreating. They were moving too slowly, and they kept their ships in formation, instead of scattering like a truly defeated fleet would do. "It's a trap," she said suddenly. "They want us to follow them." Commander Foster, her navigation officer, looked confused. "Should we let them go, Admiral?" Patricia thought about this carefully. If she let the aliens escape, they might come back later with more ships. But if she chased them and fell into their trap, she might lose the battle and doom the colonists. Then, she made her decision. "We're going to spring their trap before they're ready for it. Signal the fleet. All ships maximum attack speed. We're going to hit them hard and fast before they can surround us." The human fleet suddenly accelerated toward the alien ships. Instead of following slowly like the aliens expected, the humans charged forward at full speed. This caught Warlord Zentar completely by surprise. "They're not following the plan." Vordan shouted on the alien command ship. "They're attacking too early." Zentar realized that the human admiral was smarter than he had given her credit for. She had seen through his trap and was turning it against him. "All ships, engage immediately. Don't let them break our formation." The second battle began with even more violence than the first. Human ships crashed into the alien formation like a wave hitting rocks. Commander Taylor's battle group punched through the alien center, while Captain Rodriguez's fast ships attacked from both sides at once. This time, the fighting was more desperate. Both sides knew that whoever won this battle would control the fate of New Haven colony. The aliens fought with the fury of predators who were being challenged for the first time. The humans fought with the determination of people protecting their own family. On the USS Defiant, Commander Taylor found himself facing 3 alien ships at once. His crew worked frantically to keep their weapons firing while dodging energy beams that could destroy them with one hit. "Direct hit on the port shields," shouted his weapons officer. "Shields down to 60%. "Keep firing," Taylor ordered. "Take out that command ship on our left." The Defiant's main guns fired continuously, sending streams of energy into the alien vessel. The enemy ship's shields failed, and Taylor's weapons tore through its armor like paper. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Captain Rodriguez was having her own battle with a group of smaller alien ships. The USS Intrepid was fast, but it was surrounded by enemies who were trying to destroy it with crossfire. "Engine room, I need more speed." Rodriguez called over the ship's communication system. "Engines at 110%, Captain," came the reply. "Any more and we might blow up." "Better to blow up fighting than get captured by aliens," Rodriguez said. She guided her ship through a series of sharp turns that no alien pilot could follow, then attacked the enemy ships from behind. All across the battle zone, similar fights were happening. Human ships used their speed and maneuverability to outfight larger alien vessels. The humans had learned from the first battle and were using new tactics that confused the aliens even more. Admiral Patricia fought her own battle against Warlord Zentar's command ship. The 2 flagships circled each other like ancient gladiators, firing their most powerful weapons. The USS Leviathan was tough, but the alien ship was bigger and had stronger shields. "Admiral, we're taking heavy damage," reported her damage control officer. "Hull breach on Deck 7 and our port weapons are offline." Patricia gritted her teeth. "Transfer all power to the starboard weapons. We're going to finish this in one shot." The Leviathan turned to bring its remaining weapons to bear on the alien command ship. At the same time, Zentar was preparing his own final attack. Both ships fired their most powerful weapons at exactly the same moment. The space between the 2 flagships filled with energy beams and explosions. For a few seconds, it was impossible to see what had happened. Then the light faded and both ships were still there, badly damaged, but still fighting. But the battle was turning in favor of the humans. All around the 2 command ships, alien vessels were burning or exploding. The human ships, though outnumbered, were winning through superior tactics and determination. Warlord Zentar realized that he was about to lose his second battle against the humans. His mighty armada, which had conquered so many worlds, was being destroyed by an enemy he had thought was weak and primitive. The morning after the Great Battle, Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Leviathan and looked down at New Haven through the viewing screen. The planet looked peaceful now that the alien ships were gone, but she knew that 12,000 frightened people were still hiding underground, waiting to be rescued. "Begin evacuation operations immediately," Patricia ordered her communication officer. "Signal all transport ships to move into position. I want the first shuttles on the ground within the hour." All around New Haven, huge human ships moved into orbit. These were not warships like the ones that had fought the aliens. These were rescue ships, specially built to carry thousands of passengers safely through space. They had medical facilities, sleeping quarters, and everything needed to take care of people who had been through a terrible experience. The largest of these ships was the USS Haven, commanded by Captain Robert Stone. The Haven was as big as 3 regular ships put together, and it could carry 4,000 passengers. Captain Stone had spent his whole career rescuing people from dangerous situations, and he knew how to handle scared civilians. "Prepare all shuttle bays for continuous operations," Captain Stone told his crew. "We're going to be working around the clock until every single person is off that planet." Down in the bunkers of New Haven, Jake Morrison was organizing the evacuation with military precision. After 3 months of hiding underground, the colonists were finally going to see sunlight again. But Jake knew they had to be careful. The aliens might be gone, but there could still be dangers on the surface. "Listen, everyone," Jake announced over the colony's communication system. "The evacuation is starting now. We're going to do this in an organized way. Families with small children and injured people will go first. Everyone else will have to wait their turn, but I promise that nobody will be left behind." Lisa Parker was helping organize the passenger lists. She had spent hours making sure they knew exactly who was in each bunker and who needed special medical care. After months of keeping track of supplies and managing scared people, she was an expert at organization. "Jake, we have 11,147 people ready to go," Lisa reported. "The rest are missing, or—" She didn't finish the sentence. They both knew that some colonists had died during the 3-month siege. Dr. Kate Sullivan was preparing the most seriously wounded people for transport to the medical ships. She had kept many people alive during the siege with limited supplies, but now they could get real medical care on the rescue ships. "These people need to get to a proper hospital as soon as possible," Kate told the evacuation teams. "They've been through too much, and some of them won't survive much longer without better treatment." The first shuttles landed near the main bunker entrance just as Patricia had promised. The pilots were experienced military personnel who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. They knew that alien forces might still be hiding on the planet, and they were ready to fight if necessary. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Murphy led the first ground team that went into the bunkers. He was a space marine who had fought in many battles, but he had never seen anything like what he found underground. The colonists looked thin and tired, like people who had been afraid for too long. "My God," Murphy whispered to his sergeant. "Look what those aliens did to these people." But as the Marines moved deeper into the bunker system, they saw something that impressed them even more than the colonists' suffering. They saw the incredible strength that had kept these people alive for 3 months. The bunkers were organized like a small city, with medical areas, food storage, workshops, and living spaces. The colonists had created a whole society underground. "These people didn't just survive," Murphy told his radio operator. "They fought back. They built something down here that the aliens couldn't destroy." Jake Morrison met Colonel Murphy at the main command center. The two men looked at each other with mutual respect. Jake saw a professional soldier who had come a long way to save his people. Murphy saw a civilian who had become a leader under the worst possible conditions. "Captain Morrison," Murphy said, shaking Jake's hand. "Admiral Hayes sends her compliments. She says you and your people have done something remarkable here." Jake felt tears in his eyes. For 3 months he had wondered if anyone would ever know what had happened on New Haven. Now he realized that their story would be remembered throughout human space. The evacuation continued for 3 full days. Shuttle after shuttle carried colonists from the underground bunkers to the waiting rescue ships. The process was slow and careful. because many of the colonists were weak or injured, and some were so traumatized that they were afraid to leave their hiding places. Ryan Bell worked with the marine security teams to make sure the surface was safe. They found evidence that alien ground troops had been searching for the hidden entrances to the bunker system, but the aliens had never found the main passages. The colonists' careful construction had saved their lives. The aliens knew. "We were down there," Ryan explained to Colonel Murphy. "They spent weeks trying to dig us out, but our engineers built this place too well. Every entrance was hidden or booby-trapped." Dr. Sullivan was amazed by the medical facilities on the rescue ships. After months of working with almost no supplies, she found herself in hospitals that had every piece of equipment she could possibly need. The ship doctors worked alongside her to treat colonists who had been injured during the siege. "Doctor, you did incredible work down there," said Commander Helen Price, the chief medical officer on the USS Haven. "I don't know how you kept so many people alive with so little to work with." Kate looked around at the clean, well-equipped medical bay. "We did what we had to do. When people are depending on you, you find a way to help them, no matter what." On the second day of the evacuation, something happened that nobody expected. A group of alien prisoners was found in one of the damaged buildings on the surface. These were Zephyrian soldiers who had been captured during ground fighting weeks earlier. They had been left behind when their fleet retreated. Colonel Murphy brought the alien prisoners to Admiral Patricia for questioning. The aliens were frightened and confused. They had never been defeated before, and they didn't understand how the humans had beaten their mighty armada. "Ask them why they attacked our colony," Patricia told her translator. The alien leader, a scarred warrior named Kethmore, spoke in his own language. The translator listened and then turned to Patricia. "He says they attacked because they thought humans were weak. They expected easy victory and many slaves." Patricia looked at the alien with cold anger. "Tell him that any alien who attacks human colonies will face the same fate as his fleet. We will not allow our people to be enslaved or murdered." When the translator repeated Patricia's words, the alien prisoners looked even more frightened. They had seen what human warships could do in battle, and they knew that their species had made a terrible mistake by attacking New Haven. By the end of the third day, every living colonist had been evacuated from New Haven. The last shuttle to leave the planet carried Jake Morrison, Lisa Parker, Ryan Bell, and Dr. Sullivan. As their shuttle rose into the sky, they looked down at the colony they had built and defended. "I never thought I'd see this place from the air again," Lisa said quietly. Jake put his arm around her shoulders. "We built something good here. Maybe someday when it's safe, we can come back and build it again." The journey back to human space took 2 weeks, just like the journey to New Haven. But this time, the ships were filled with grateful families instead of worried soldiers. The colonists slowly began to recover from their ordeal as they traveled toward safety. Admiral Patricia spent time visiting the rescued colonists on the different ships. She wanted to hear their stories and make sure they had everything they needed. What she heard impressed her more than any military victory she had ever achieved. These people didn't just survive, she told her officers. They maintained their humanity even under the worst conditions. They took care of each other. They shared what little they had, and they never gave up hope. The news of the Battle of New Haven spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other alien races that had been conquered by the Zephyrians began to hope that they might be freed someday. Some of them sent secret messages to human space asking for help against their oppressors. The Zephyrian Empire itself was thrown into chaos. Warlord Zentar was stripped of his command and exiled for losing so badly to the humans. Other Zephyrian leaders began to worry that humans might come looking for revenge. When the rescue fleet finally reached Earth space, they were greeted by the largest celebration in human history. Millions of people lined the viewing areas of space stations to watch the ships come home. News reporters from across human space were there to tell the story of the Great Rescue. But the real celebration happened when the colonists stepped off the ships and felt solid ground under their feet again. Families were reunited with relatives they thought they would never see again. Children who had spent months hiding underground ran and played in gardens and parks. Jake Morrison was interviewed by reporters from around the galaxy. They wanted to know how the colonists had survived for so long against such terrible odds. "We survived because we're human," Jake said simply. "We take care of each other."